everyone. Welcome back to Heartbeat Narratives. My name is Molly Mamaril, and I'm super excited to welcome my good friend, community leader, father, husband, and all-around great guy, Scott Nishimoto, to the podcast today. Thank you so much for coming, Scott.
Thanks for having me, Molly. That's a very generous introduction. Definitely just trying my best these days.
I think I made you blush.
Blushing a little bit.
I'm sorry. But I'm always so intrigued by how you share your life, your words, your care with the community. And today I just really wanted to see what makes your heart beat. But before we get into all of that, could you share where you're from?
I am from here, born and raised in Hawaii. Most of my childhood was spent in Aiea. Since then, I've become a townie. Cannot go past Kalihi, I'd say, and can't go past Hoikai in the other direction. I belong in town, specifically in the Pu'unui area, which is a little bit above Liliha, a little bit below Nu'uanu. And I live there with my family.
And we met, I think, in 2018, because we were working out of the same co-working space. And that was a really fun community to be part of. Shout out Vai Collective.
Yes.
And we became fast friends because we realized we both really enjoy reality TV.
The Bachelor. Bachelor in Paradise, Bachelorette.
I wasn't going to say it, but we went there.
We're proud of this.
Yeah, it was a passing phase, but it was definitely a connecting point. But since then, I feel like our families have gotten closer, and it's been a joy to see you raise your kids and have such an engaged family life while also balancing work. And with that, I wanted to ask what makes your heart beat.
Yeah, thanks. It's a tough question, and I think the easiest answer is that my kids, my daughter Ellie, who's 7, and my son Rui, who's 3, they are who make my heart beat, along with my wife Tiari, who's 38. But I think it's a little deeper than that. I feel like what makes my heart beat, especially these days, is seeing these parallels between sort of these two big identities that I have, which is one, a former child to my parents, and 2, currently, a parent to my children. And my heart really, really beats when I start to discover these parallels. And when my daughter says something that I remember saying or feeling when I was a kid, that makes my heart beat. When I see my parents, or when I'm doing something that reminds me of the way my parents treated me as a kid, that makes my heart beat. So yeah, I think that's my slightly deeper answer than just saying my kids.
I feel like you are very present for those moments and very observant of those special things that you never want to forget about. Recently, you wrote a book of poetry. Would you like to share a little bit about that process?
Definitely. So this book is called Beautifully Ordinary. It's a poetry chapbook that covers many significant points over the course of my life. I've actually been writing poems probably since my high school days.
Really?
Yeah, and then I went to UH, majored in creative writing, so I had to write more poetry. And then I didn't really pick it up seriously until maybe 10 years ago. And I kind of made it my thing just before I go to sleep, try to write one or write part of a poem before I go to bed. And I found my computer just full of probably several hundreds of poems. And it got to a point where I felt like there's some of these that I really, really like, and I started sharing them with other people, particularly my wife and some of my former mentors, Aunty Burgess. And a lot of people just kind of encouraged me to go ahead and publish this, share this. These stories are stories that other people will resonate with, so it deserves to be shared. So I just took a leap of faith and self-published it via Amazon. And it's been a fun process to hear the feedback. Like I was telling you earlier, Molly, I thought it would just be for myself because they're my stories, and maybe my parents would get a smile out of it and my kids would like some of the stories about them. But it's been really cool hearing from others, friends, and even strangers that they too resonate with some of these stories. And it makes them feel a certain kind of way. So I'm really happy that I did this and happy to read a few for you folks today.
I remember when you first published it, we got a copy in the mail and immediately read it. And I had no idea how much you enjoyed writing poetry. There's something really potent about the way you write that kind of like hits the heart in like the best of ways. And not every poet has that ability. And also, I just didn't even know that you majored in creative writing. That's a new layer. But yeah, it would be really awesome if we could hear some of your poems.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's go for it. The ones that I've sort of flagged in this book, these are some of my favorites, but I'm also going to read them in pairs because, as I spoke about earlier, a lot of these sort of represent these parallels between these two identities, me as a parent and me as a child. I'll go ahead and read them in pairs. So this first one is called It's Okay, Daddy. I break the news to Ellie. Her friend's mom just died. I ask her how she feels. She shrugs her shoulders as her eyes remain glued to the TV, and she eats a strawberry popsicle, and she scratches the mosquito bite on her ankle. I wonder if she understands the permanence of death. I wonder if she cares how her friend feels right now as she begins the second day of her new life without her mom. I wonder if she would just shrug her shoulders and watch TV and eat a strawberry popsicle and scratch the mosquito bite on her ankle if it was mommy who died, or her baby brother who died, or me who died. My eyes feel heavy. Ellie's friend's mom was my friend too. We used to talk about where our kids would go to kindergarten and what's the right age to learn how to ride a bike and how to get them to stop talking about butts so much. I dry my eyes before Ellie notices. She rests her head upon my lap while she watches TV and eats her strawberry popsicle and scratches the mosquito bite on her ankle. And she tells me, "It's okay, Daddy." The next poem is called Band Class. I still think about my friend who sat next to me in band class and giggled every time my clarinet squeaked. The same band class where upperclassmen teased us every day because we played the clarinet, because we had high voices, because we were small, because we smiled a lot. I still think about my friend who never talked to me about how he felt, being teased by those upperclassmen every day. Come to think of it, I never talked to him about how I felt, being teased by those upperclassmen every day either. I still think about my friend who one day didn't show up to band class because he ended his life. And every time my clarinet squeaked, I still thought about my friend. I still think about my friend. Okay, so those are two poems that kind of make me think about these really early experiences with death. The first poem I read, and these are all true stories, but yeah, Ellie's best friend from preschool, her mom passed away, and it was difficult for me to find the words of wisdom to share with her in that moment as a 4-year-old or 5-year-old is dealing with death for the first time. And sometimes it doesn't take those words. Sometimes it's just sitting on the couch while eating a strawberry popsicle and watching her scratch that mosquito bite on her foot. And that's the way we cope. And maybe the most significant part of that story was when I think she could sense that I was really struggling with it. I felt like it was my duty to make her feel better about it, but she felt like she had a duty to make me feel better as well. She did her job in the way she knows how, and she put her head on my lap and she told me that it's okay. And it's just another reminder of just how wise our children are, sometimes much more wise than we are. And then that second story is sort of my recollection, my childhood recollection of one of the earliest deaths that I experienced. My grandpa passed away before that, and those are memories I can't quite remember as well, but this is one that really sticks out to me. And in many ways, I kind of regret the way that I responded to that. I just kind of held it in, and we had a really quick assembly at school, and that was it. My friend was gone, and I never really allowed myself to kind of revisit it. But, drawing that parallel, when Ellie's friend's mom passed away, it made me think a lot about that early experience that I had dealing with death as well. So yeah, sorry, gosh, I think about these stories often, but for some reason reading them out loud just has a different feeling. Yeah, thanks for letting me read those.
Of course. Thank you for sharing them and capturing the complexity of it all and those feelings of like being from, a child's perspective, being in school and navigating loss from your own mind all the way to the moments of your clarinet squeaking. Those are the things we don't always remember. We just remember the sadness or like confusion. But you give us a glimpse into like the reality of it by sharing like Ellie scratching her mosquito bite and eating her popsicle. Complex.
Yeah. Okay, so the next two poems, I'll just go ahead and read them.
Yeah, perfect.
So the first one is called Good Boy Kaika. I had a dog named Kaika, and for most of his life he took long walks exploring the vast circle of our neighborhood before returning home and finding the most comfortable crevice between an armrest and my leg, and I'd pat his back as he'd doze off to sleep. Good boy, Kaika. In his later years, his circle got smaller, his legs too weak for long walks. Dementia, loss of sight, loss of hearing. The dog who once enjoyed exploring the vast circle of our neighborhood would now pace the living room in tight circles, confused, yet still able to find the most comfortable crevice between an armrest and the leg of his new friend, Ellie, as she'd pat his back as he'd doze off to sleep. Good boy, Kaika. Kaika was an important part of Ellie's circle, and she was an important part of his. The day after we put Kaika down for good, Ellie noticed another kid crying at school. She whispered to me, "I'll just pat his back. He will be okay." Full circle moment. For one last time, I couldn't help but think, good boy, Kaika. The next poem is called Grandpa's Smile. My grandpa passed 15 years ago, and just recently I realized that I can't remember what he looked like when he smiled. I can see him reclined on the sofa, right hand resting on his belly, watching Wheel of Fortune. I can even smell him when I peel lychee and eat boiled peanuts. But for the first time in my life, I can't remember what he looked like when he smiled. I remember he was a man of few words, and that his voice was low, and that he called me Scotty and my brother Benji, and that he rarely seemed happy and rarely seemed upset. But for the first time in my life, I can't remember what he looked like when he smiled. Long after I'm gone, I wonder if you will still remember what I looked like every time you made me smile. So these two poems make me think of the importance of documenting. I love the fact that in this generation we can take pictures of everything and hang these pictures up on the wall. And I have this fear that Ellie will someday forget Kaika or others who passed. But I feel like, thanks to these sorts of poems that I write, thanks to the stories I tell her about her dog, thanks to the pictures on the wall, she's able to sort of preserve these wonderful memories of her first dog. And then the parallel to the second story is that when my grandpa was alive, that was pre-iPhone days. So as I look through these photo albums, we had very few pictures of him and none with him smiling. So when I say that I can't remember what he looked like when he smiled, I mean it. I can't even picture it in my head. And I'm so sad that I can't, because he was a very important person to me. But through the writing of these sorts of poems, I feel like I'm sort of like memorializing or like reminding myself of some of these wonderful memories that I had with him. And I hope my daughter's able to do the same when she thinks about her dog and others who've passed. Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. It really creates a sense of almost nostalgia, but by writing it and documenting it, you are creating the image of your grandpa smiling. Even if you can't remember it, it's like the hope and the intent is there. And I think that that's special in its own way.
Yeah. And I think the process of writing it really pushes you to go a little deeper into your memories, right? If my mom was to say, oh, remember when grandpa used to sit down and watch Wheel of Fortune? Like, it would give me a really short snapshot and then leave my mind. But going through this very intentional process of choosing my words right and looking back and thinking about those very specific memories of him peeling lychee for me and peeling boiled peanuts for me, right? Playing solitaire by himself at his dinner table. Going through this process of writing forces me to think about all those little details. And when I think about my own legacy, I hope my kids don't remember me as the executive director of Seeds of Peace or, all of these professional identities or how the community remembers me. I hope they remember all these small things I did for them, like the time that I peeled them lychee and the way I peeled boiled peanuts for them and the way I looked when I smiled and the way I smelled and, the way I threw them in the air. Those are the memories I hope come to mind when they are asked to remember me.
I think through your writing, you're almost like creating a puzzle piece of who somebody was by giving those details, like Wheel of Fortune and the boiled peanuts. You're creating a fuller picture by adding those pieces in so that you can get closer to that memory. That's my only way of describing how it feels from the outside.
Yeah, I think that's right. And I mean, there's a reason why this book is called Beautifully Ordinary, because I think it is these ordinary moments that are the most beautiful. Right? Like, I actually don't care what my grandpa did for a living or, I those sorts of things don't really resonate for me. It is these tiny, daily, ordinary things that give me the most reasons to smile when I think about my grandpa. So I think that's the case for a lot of people. These very small, insignificant, seemingly insignificant moments that are actually the most important.
The ones you want to remember. Yeah, keep going. I know you have endless poems.
I got a few more. I'm hoping not to take up hours of this podcast.
This is perfect. This is the point.
Okay. So this next poem is called Milk Carton Opener. How's school going? Good, I guess. I'm not the best in my class, but I'm not the worst. I think I'm just medium. I scramble for the words to tell you that you're not just medium, that you're amazing, that you're the best at a lot of things, that no one should determine your worth for you. But Daddy, you know what I'm not medium at? What's that, Ellie? Opening milk cartons. I'm the only kindergartner who can open their milk carton on their own. And at lunch, all my friends pass me their milk cartons. I might not be the best at reading, but I can open milk cartons. You go, girl. The next poem is called Not Very Good. In kindergarten, I was not very good at anything. Not very good at reading, not very good at writing, not very good at math, not very good at speaking, not very good at being funny, not very good at sports, not very good at singing, not very good at being tall, not very good at looking good, not very good at anything. So at the end of the year awards ceremony, I picked a not very good place to sit to hide from the fact that I was not very good enough to receive an award. And as each of my classmates accepted their awards, I became more certain that I was not very good at anything. Until Miss Davis called me up to the front to announce that I was the recipient of a very special award, Best Gardener. From that moment, at least I knew I was very good at something. So these two poems have a very obvious parallel. I do remember feeling very insufficient at a lot of things when I was a little kid. I don't think I gained real self-confidence until maybe middle school or high school. But I don't remember being the best or even close to the best, maybe even average at anything when I was this age. I was sort of the picture perfect image of a mediocre child.
I don't believe that.
I felt that. I definitely felt that. And no parent wants their child to feel that way, yet here was my child who also had similar feelings. She admitted that, she's just okay at reading. She's okay at math. Daddy, I struggle on my homework. Sometimes I ask for help. There are other kids who are smarter than me and faster than me and better than me at soccer. She's very aware of these sorts of things, which I'm glad. I think self-awareness is good, but it's also a little bit heartbreaking for your child to realize at such a young age that she is not as good as she wants to be. One thing, I think she's a couple years ahead of me in maturity compared to my 5-year-old or kindergarten self. I just loved laying in bed with her that one night as she talked about this one thing that she does feel good at, and that's opening milk cartons. And again, getting back to the title of this book, Beautifully Ordinary, for some reason I was more proud of her for feeling proud of that seemingly insignificant, ordinary duty at school than I would have if she said, I'm the best at reading. For some reason, being the best at opening milk cartons and being a helper and being of service to her classmates and being the best at something that doesn't really serve herself, it serves everyone else around her, just made me so proud. And I hope that that becomes kind of a thread throughout her life, that the thing that she feels like she's good at is helping other people, hopefully with more significant things than just opening a milk carton. But for now, I think it represents a lot. So that was definitely one of my favorite ordinary moments of parenthood when I heard my daughter tell that story to me.
It's so accurate to the age, because those are the moments she feels most needed by her friends and her classmates. I remember you sharing one time that you would always ask her, who did you help today? Is that the question you ask?
Yep. So we always start with, how was your day? And that's usually a very short answer, like, good, fine, it was okay, or not so good. It's hard for me to get more out of her, and that's a common theme for a lot of parents, right? But my follow-up question is, okay, who did you help today? And that's a question that she can go on and on about, like, because it's her, she feels like it's her duty. She feels like it's her identity to be a helper. So I know that she's consciously going on throughout her day and looking for ways to help, because she looks forward to being able to tell me after school, I helped this person with this, I helped this person with that. And I really like that about her. You tend to care much less than you think you're going to care when it comes to reading and writing and math. And when you become a parent, you tend to care a lot more about these little things. This also makes me think about Aunty Puanani Burgess, who we both were influenced by in some way. And her most well-known story is the story of the boy with the gift. Aunty Pua was big on that, like making sure that kids, but not only kids, just human beings, understand that they are gifted. Because not everyone is going to get straight A's. Not everyone is going to be a great reader, writer, or mathematician, or athlete, or not everyone is going to be good looking. But everyone has some sort of gift. And for now, if that gift for Ellie is opening milk cartons, and for me, if that gift was gardening, even though I'm terrible at gardening now, that's beside the point. The fact is that we feel like we have a gift and we feel like we are important in some way.
I think that reflection is really relevant to anybody of any age, because you can always ask yourself, no matter how you're feeling, who did I help today? Who am I in service of? Because when you're feeling lost or purposeless or uncertain about the future, you can always put yourself forward to uplift someone else's day. And whether you're 4 years old or 94, what a great way to help make someone else's heart beat by giving them a special moment. And you're planting those seeds. You're gardening in another way through your kids.
Yeah. And I think it gets us back to the analogy of the gift as well, right? A gift isn't just something that you have and keep and enjoy for yourself. A gift is something that you give, something that you share, something that exists beyond you, right? So I love that analogy of the gift, and I wish we as a society can think more in terms of gifts, what are our own gifts, but also unearthing the gifts of those around us. Because we as a community are so bad at that. We are so bad at recognizing our own gifts. We're probably even worse at unearthing the gifts of others. So if that's what's accomplished from other people listening to this podcast, maybe the job here is done. That if you can go out there and make sure you unearth one other person's gift, I think that would be really, really cool.
That's a great call to action.
Yeah, call to action.
Do you have any more poems?
Yeah, I got a few more. Okay. The first one is called Instagram. The best moments are not captured on Instagram. The moments that are so fleeting that you don't have enough time to pull out your phone to press the little red button. The moments that are so beautiful that you prefer experiencing them with your own eyes. The moments when your son scrapes his knee on the pavement and your daughter hugs him as his tears and snot soak into her Elsa dress. In any other moment, she would be upset about this, but in this moment, she rubs his back, while his chubby little fingers grip her shoulders and leave imprints that she'll never notice were there. The moments when your wife comes home at 10 p.m. with an Oreo McFlurry and large fries, with the receipt stuck to the condensation on the cup, and she says, "I got this for you, because I know it was a hard day. Hope you don't mind, but I ate a few fries on my drive home." The moments when grandma is drawing a picture of a rainbow with her granddaughter and grandpa is tossing a basketball to his grandson while you try to get some work done at their house. And out of the corner of your eye, you get a glimpse of what life must have looked like when you were a kid. The next poem is called Wake Up Happy. "Good night," my mom would say every night. "Good night," I'd respond. Sleep tight, sweet dreams, and wake up happy." I don't remember how we came up with that nightly mantra. It sounds much too simplistic to be something my mom would have created, because she, as someone who grew up poor, as someone who survived cancer, as someone who openly admits that life is sometimes shitty, embrace the fact that we don't always need to wake up happy. So sometimes I question why my mom felt it was important to continue telling me every night to wake up happy. Now that I'm a dad, I understand there are few things you want more for your child than to simply wake up happy. I think these two poems kind of sum up the spirit of this entire book. It's these simple, tiny, ordinary things that are the most important to us and really shape who we are. The fact that I can still remember that nightly mantra, because we said it every night between the ages of probably 3 and 18 when I moved out. Yeah, it's something that I carry with me today. And if nothing else, I want to make sure my kids just wake up happy. Everything else is gravy. As long as they wake up happy, I feel like I'm doing my job. But that nightly mantra, yeah, it was a very important memory for me. It's made me who I am today as a dad. And that first story, Instagram, yeah, there's just all these ordinary moments that we go through our days, and we'd probably forget if we didn't take that effort to remember and write down. My son falls down and scrapes his knees all the time, so I don't know why this one really stuck out for me. But it did. It felt like such a Kodak moment, but it was too special for me to want to actually pull out my phone. I remember just sitting there and observing how beautiful this was as a big sister took care of her snotty little brother. Yeah, just a beautiful moment. And then it all kind of comes together at the end of the poem when I see the way my parents, or grandma and grandpa, care for my children. When you're going through childhood, it's hard to really admire your parents. You're usually upset at them for making you do something you don't want to do. But sometimes it takes 37 years, and 37 years later, you realize, man, they're really good parents. They were such good parents, and it's hard to get that perspective until you see them with your kids, right? Mm-hmm. And see them in action as grandma and grandpa. And just the tenderness they approach parenthood with, and the love and the care, and just people use unconditional a lot. Maybe it's overused, but really it's just without any conditions. in many ways, I feel like I'm constantly just learning from the way I see them grandparent. But I think it's so much more than that. It's the culmination of these 37 years that I've had the privilege to be around them. And that's turned me into the parent I am today.
I also see a parallel between you writing and documenting these stories and the way your parents also did that in their own life. Could you expand on what they were doing for their careers?
Yeah, so my parents ran the Center for Oral History at the University of Hawaii Manoa for 30, 40 years. I should know the exact number of years, but they did it for what seemed like forever. And their job was similar to you as a podcast host, Molly. They were interviewing ordinary people and capturing their extraordinary stories. This is their belief in how history should be kept. History is so much more than just a set of dates and memorizing names of those who were involved. History is all of the ordinary things that went into each event and the feelings people felt. You know, before I go any further, I feel like the last poem that I have captures.
Perfect.
This poem is called December 7th, 1941. My parents worked their entire careers as oral historians. They recorded voices of the past before those voices passed. Lucky for me, they'd bring those stories home to our dinner table every night. At school, I learned that Pearl Harbor was bombed on December 7th, 1941. I had to memorize that date because it was on my history exam, which I needed a 94% in order to finish the semester with an A. At the dinner table, I learned the story of Gussie Ornelas, who on December 7th, 1941 lost her 2 daughters when stray shrapnel hit their home. I learned that mourning your daughter's death is something you never really recover from. I learned that December 7th, 1941 was a memory which still made Gussie Ornelas' voice tremble half a century later. I learned that December 7th, 1941 was so much more than just an answer on my history exam, which I needed a 94% in order to finish the semester with an A. I think that poem basically sums up my parents and what they did for their career. They uncovered these extraordinary stories from ordinary people. These emotions that these folks felt in many ways are much more important than what we're going to see in history books. And fast forward to today, what's just happening in the world. ICE is rounding up innocent immigrants, right? And we can see on the news that this happened in South Kona and this many people got rounded up and they got sent back to Honduras. You know, it just becomes a 10-second piece of information for us and we go along with our days. If only we knew the stories that these folks have as a result of this, being torn from their community, being rounded up, having kids that they had to pull from school that day, pulling kids from really the only safe space they thought they had, detaining these kids in cells, sending them back to Honduras where these kids don't even consider this place home. But by capturing those stories and the emotions and the fear, I think that's what actually inspires people to change. I don't think we're going to stop these bad behaviors as a community until we can really get into these stories and get into these emotions. So that's why I feel like oral history as a way to document the past is maybe the most significant way to do it. And I'd also like to take this opportunity to give props to you, Molly, because in some ways I think you're doing something similar. You're capturing the emotions and the depth behind people. I think as a community, we need more people who are committed to this sort of effort. We need good listeners and good, conduits to tell these stories.
Thank you for saying that. It's been a journey just creating a platform like this because everything is so divisive lately. And it's not fun to lead with political views, but when you ask someone what brings them joy, it's like who they are at their core.
Right.
And if we can connect heart to heart in that deeper way, some of the judgment falls away, and then the openness for common ground reveals itself, because you never know if someone loves gardening.
Yep.
Or they love baking, or they love whatever their career might be. They could be a scientist or a construction worker or a sculptor. But if you lead with those things, those positive things, we can kind of start reconnecting the fabric of our society. And I think that's what I want to get to by interviewing people within my circle, and then maybe a couple rings outwards.
Mm-hmm.
Because every single person has those circles. Yeah, thank you for saying that. I think you're spot on with storytelling is like a way to the heart.
Yeah. And I think it's so easy to erase history, forget history. It takes a lot of effort to preserve it, right? And through platforms like this is exactly how we preserve it, so we don't make these same mistakes again. Thank you for doing this. I feel like you're carrying on my parents' work and their legacy. And they'd always tell me that at the dinner table, like, our job is to capture the extraordinary stories of ordinary people. Because everyone's got an extraordinary story in them, and most people don't have the opportunity that I have right now to be able to tell it and share it and have it recorded and have it out to the world. But my story is no more amazing than the guy who lives next door. We all have these amazing stories within us. We gotta find ways to get them out of people.
Just digging a little deeper.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, this was such a fun, creative, emotion-provoking conversation, and I thank you for writing the poems and holding that space for reflection, because I think we all need to have these quieter moments where we are like present with our families, with our kids, our neighbors and colleagues and loved ones. So anything else you want to add?
Maybe just another call to action. Just write down these thoughts, be observant, and just write. I'll be the first to say I enjoy writing, but again, I don't think I'm all that great at it. If there's anything that I am good at, it is being very observant of what's happening and not taking for granted those really beautiful, precious, special moments that I see in my community, in my own home, amongst my kids. And I'm just so glad that I thought to start recording these moments, because there will be a point I'm gonna forget these. You know, if I had gone another 5 years, I don't think I would have been able to write about that moment when Ellie was hugging Rui after he scraped his knee. I think it would have been gone. So there's the timeliness factor too. I think you've got to write it when you feel it and when it happens. Otherwise, it's gone forever. So that's my call to action. Just write, whether you think you're good at it or not. Just write. Doesn't have to rhyme. Doesn't have to sound great. Just write.
Great advice. A great call to action. Mahalo, everyone, for tuning in. Mahalo, Scott, for coming on and opening our hearts up to these beautiful words of yours. So we invite you to join us on the next episode, and we'll catch you later. Aloha.